Right, hope everybody's having a good week. Good to see everyone. Before I get started, just wanted to congratulate our women's soccer team and Shelly and Jamie Smith on the fantastic win over the Tar Heels last week in Chapel Hill. That was awesome. It gave us some great news while we were out in Missouri, and wanted to wish them luck this weekend as they travel out to Los Angeles to play Hofstra. So excited for them and love what their program is about, and best of luck to them out on the West Coast this week. Got a big challenge on our hands with a really, really, really good Auburn team. You turn on the tape, it's, physical. Our physicality jumps out everywhere on all three phases. They play physical offensively. They're explosive. We all know about the Bigsby, the running back, but they've got a group of running backs that can run the football. They've got a big physical offensive line. They're deep at tight end. They use multiple tight ends. The wide receiver core is fantastic. Guys with speed, and there's a backup there that we were trying like heck to get at Oklahoma as a receiver, and he's a backup for him right now. So really, really talented wide receivers. Hate to hear the news on Bo Nix. Certainly thoughts and prayers are with him, and wish him a speedy recovery. What a competitor and warrior that is. You can watch the tape of the game from last Saturday and see him limping around for a strong portion of the game, trying to fight through that injury. So says everything about what he's about, and so much respect for his competitive spirit, and wish him well. Defensively, same thing, physical and dominant. Got a corner that's most likely going to be a first-round draft pick, really good front seven, physicality, athleticism, speed across the defense, and then on special teams, extremely well coached, physical on special teams as well, and really explosive in there. You can see they coach it well. They work hard at it. It shows on video. So we've got a big challenge on our hands facing this bunch. Obviously coming off a tough second half against Mississippi State the other day. They looked as good as any team in the country in the first half, and then momentum kind of flipped on them a little bit. The quarterback got banged up, but we know we're in for a big challenge on Saturday night. The quarterback that we expect to play, obviously he's played reps this season. He's played reps against this program in the past, and he's a talented guy as well. So it's not like they're putting in some freshman that hasn't played. This guy's got meaningful reps. So we got a big challenge in our hands, but our guys are excited about the opportunity to go compete. Again, had a really good practice this morning, and we were a disappointed bunch, obviously, on Saturday night with the way we played, but came right back to work on Sunday like we always do after a win, after a loss. We tell the truth to each other, we correct, and take the day off on Monday, the players do, and then we come back in here, and today was fantastic meetings and practice. We certainly are excited about the opportunity to be back home in Williams-Brice Stadium. We certainly feed off our fans' energy, and we're going to need a rocking Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday night. I hope our fans can appreciate the passion that our players play with and the competitive spirit that they play with. It may not always be pretty, but you can't question how passionate we play for each other and how much the guys on our team care for each other and love each other. So we need that Saturday night, national television, prime time, ESPN. Going to be an awesome environment to showcase our program and this university and Williams-Brice Stadium. So looking forward to that opportunity. And with that, I will be glad to answer any questions.
Shane, just grading the Missouri tape and looking at their defense, I know they were blitzing a lot, but the amount of free rushers coming at Jason just on a whole lot of the game. What did you guys see as the main cause of that, and how do you plan to alleviate that?
Yeah, it happened too much the other night, just to be honest. I'm just thinking back through them. One time was a little bit of a different front they lined up in where they overloaded the right side, that they brought a guy free off the left side that should have been picked up. It was just a look that was a little bit new, that the running back in that particular instance had his eyes over there to the right at a rusher he was responsible for, and they brought the guy from the left. One time was just a missed assignment with the left guard where we turned a rusher free, and on a drop back pass. I wish I had a better explanation. It was just a mistake by one of our offensive linemen on that. He should have been out there picking that guy up. I mean, that's a basic thing that we should have had no issue with. Another one was on a running play where we didn't block the linebacker. That was just an instance where the tackle tight end guessed wrong, had an idea of what they thought might be happening that the defense was doing based on the way they lined up, which they weren't necessarily far off, but they guessed wrong on that one and shouldn't happen. So we go back to work and get it corrected. And a couple of the runs, you could say that, they were flying their defensive ends up the field. And one time we ran, I think, the counter play into a defensive end just screaming up the field. And that's one, you tip your cap to them. They had the chalk last, and that's not the greatest play if they're playing it that way. So you go back, you look at the things they did. Certainly Auburn's going to look at it and copy things that Missouri did, just like Missouri copied things that other people did, and you always try and stay ahead and just coach it better. But that's one thing, David, that we talked about as a staff yesterday, offensively and defensively, is some of those mistakes that happened on Saturday night were not new things that we had in. It was things that we've been doing and making sure that we're constantly coaching and reviewing everything. So hope that answers your question. It was too much, but give Missouri some credit for some of them, and then we just got to do a better job of coaching so our guys are prepared for every look that they could potentially see during the game.
Shane, obviously the Virginia Tech job opened up this morning. I know, we know your history, your dad's history there, and your time there. Just wanted to ask you where you stand in relation to that, and as the head coach at South Carolina right now too.
Yeah, certainly you hate to ever see anyone lose their job. So tough from that standpoint. Obviously, I love Virginia Tech. I moved there when I was 10 years old. I went to high school there. I went to college there. I coached there. My parents still live there. So I have special memories of my time in Blacksburg, and that'll always be, special to me. But this is where I want to be. When I said this was my dream job, I wasn't just saying that to make it sound cool in a press conference or to get the job. This is where my wife and I and my family want to be. We didn't put that sign up over there in Williams-Brice Stadium that said "Welcome Home" just because it was trendy and a slogan. This is home for me, and I want to be the head football coach here at South Carolina. I love working for Ray Tanner and Chance Miller. They are fantastic, and we have an amazing relationship. I love this state. I want to live in this state. I love this city. I want to live in this city. I told our team a couple weeks ago, my son Hunter, he's in second grade, I guess. I want him to graduate high school from here in Columbia, and this is where I want to be. We're just getting started. Recruiting is going amazingly well. There's a lot of energy about this program right now. There's a lot of excitement about this program right now. My goal is to bring an SEC championship here to Columbia, and we're just in the beginning stages of it. So, no, I'm the head coach at South Carolina. I want to be the head coach at South Carolina. And then, probably beyond any of that is we use the word love around here a lot, and I love coaching these kids, and couldn't imagine not coaching these guys, and love what they're about, and love being their head football coach.
Shane, obviously different coaching staff in comparison to last year, but what can these players take away from having the opportunity last year to go up against a guy like TJ Finley? And as coaches, how much of that do you kind of pry and try to get information from them based on what they saw last year and in comparison to the short and limited time he has so far this season with Auburn?
Yeah, you get they know what he's about, I guess, for the guys that were out there, two totally different teams, with him being at LSU last year, with the 2020 Gamecocks, the 2021 Gamecocks, the scheme, all that. But they certainly, from a physical standpoint, they know what he looks like in person. They know that he can throw the football. Obviously, Auburn thinks highly of him because there was a time this year where he was their starting quarterback, I guess, and then they ended up going back to Bo Nix. But, if anything, I think it's just the seeing him out there on the field for the first time won't be the first time they seem. I mean, I was at Mississippi State and we played against LSU and Jamarcus Russell, and the guy looks like Jamarcus Russell out there. I mean, I've never seen him in person, but I mean, you turn on the video and you see how big he is. He got in there, I think, for 2 plays the other day against Mississippi State at the end of the game. There's video that you can draw on from earlier this season when he played as well. So we'll look at that as coaches and go back and kind of get a feel for him. And you know, I think it's an advantage in some ways for us, but, you know, probably he would say the same thing too. I mean, he knows or is somewhat familiar with our personnel, I guess, also. But again, with him, I mean, he's got 10 really good guys around him as well. And it starts with that offensive line and the group of running backs and tight ends and receivers they have out there also.
Coach, you hear players all the time say, we just have to drown out the noise. We heard your players say it earlier today. For you personally, how do you drown out the noise? And is that even possible when you're the head coach of an SEC program?
Good question. Probably easier than you think, just because we're so insulated in this building in a lot of ways. You know, I wake up early in the morning. My wife and kids are asleep. It's dark. I come into this facility. I'm here all day. I go home at night. It's dark. And during the day, all I'm doing in here is trying to recruit and get this team prepared to play on that particular week, that Saturday, the upcoming Saturday. I do. It's not like after we lost to Missouri that as soon as I got on the bus, I immediately went to Twitter to see what they were saying about me. I didn't. I can assure you that. I immediately pulled out my iPad and busted back to St. Louis and watched the game on my iPad and tried to figure out what went wrong and how to get us better for sure. But I think it would be naive for me to say that you're not. I mean, our players, they walk out of here at noon each day and they go to class and they're around Columbia and they're on social media and things like that. So I try and stay somewhat, you know, in tune with maybe what the narrative is out there. But as far as me, you know, listening to it, if I'm letting that influence what I'm doing, then I'm not doing the best job for the young men in this program, if that makes sense.
Shane, obviously, Mike Bobo likes to run the ball a lot. What have you seen from Auburn in the run game specifically, and how big of a test is that coming off that Missouri game to improve?
Yeah, really big. You know, it starts with the run, and you go back to when this staff was at Boise State. They used multiple tight ends. They ran the football. That's what Mike likes to do. You turn on the tape, and you see parts of Boise, you see parts of Mike Bobo's offense and whatnot. You know, when you go back to all the way to when, you know, Brian Harsin was at Texas and the style that Texas had. So it all carries over. But it starts with the run and I mean, they're really, really, really good and really, really physical. They mix up the run game. It's not like it's just one scheme that you see over and over. You got to be ready for a lot of it. You know, you got to be ready for inside zone. You got to be ready for some toss crack. You got to be ready for some outside zone. I mean, they do a good job of mixing it up and moving those tight ends around, you know, and getting them in different places and creating angles and leverage. So it's certainly a big challenge, and especially for our guys. I mean, they're built differently than what Missouri is. You know, Beatty from Missouri he's not the size necessarily of Bigsby and some of these running backs, and you know, with Missouri they had tight ends they played, but you know, it's a little bit more spread out and some 2x2 sets. Whereas with Auburn, I mean, they may have 3 tight ends in there and they're lined up, and it's old school downhill football. And I like to think that we're like that a lot of ways as well. I think we're a physical football team. I think we were at a lot of times on Saturday night against Missouri, and that's what we've been preaching to our players this week is the physicality that it's going to take on Saturday night to perform at a high level.
Shane, what's your quarterback situation? Is Zeb healthy enough that maybe he can get some time this week, or where do you stand on who's going to start?
Yeah, Jason will be the starter. Again, you know, it wasn't pretty all the time on Saturday night, but Jason, you know, going back and looking at the tape, Jason did a lot of good things, and we've got to continue to get him stepping up in the pocket and not always escaping to the left, when he feels any kind of pressure. And that's been a big point of emphasis for him. But he made some nice throws and did some good things for us down the stretch as well. Zeb is healthy. Zeb was healthy last week. If we had felt like we needed to put Zeb in the game last week, we could have. So there's Jason, there's Zeb. Colton would be our number 3, quarterback this week, and then we'll go from there.
If you can get that one win over the next 2 weeks to become bowl eligible, how big would that be, considering what you stepped into in this first year to get 6 wins and be bowl eligible?
Yeah, I would hope we could find a way to get 2, down the stretch for sure. And right now, our focus right now is nothing but Auburn, but specifically, let's have a great rest of the Tuesday, and then let's worry about Wednesday morning tomorrow when they come back for practice. But, obviously I think it would be great for the young men in this program to be able to have that kind of season and be rewarded with a bowl game. It's certainly from a developmental standpoint, it would be huge for us as coaches because it gives you kind of an extra spring practice in December as well. It'd be great for our fan base as well. But, regardless of what happens in regards to that, I think we've done enough really good things this year where the direction of this program and where we're headed and the type of young men we have in this program and what we're about has been evident. And then obviously, the opportunity to continue to win football games and continue to advance would be great. But, it's kind of like we talked about last week, Phil. We don't need to be thinking about bowl games. We need to think about Auburn and what we have to do as individuals as coaches and players to be at our very best this week. And, if we perform our best and take care of business, and the rest will take care of itself.
Hey, Coach, facing another top 10 rushing attack in the SEC this week, how confident are you the defense can bounce back and have a better performance than they had against Mizzou? And then on the flip side, Zaquandre had another good game. Talk to us about what you've seen out of his progress this season.
Yeah, as far as our defense, it seems like it's story of it's SEC football. Every week it seems like you're getting ready to play an explosive physical run game. You go back to Georgia and their backs, and then you got Kentucky and Rodriguez coming in here, and you got Vanderbilt, and they had gone for I think 200+ yards on Stanford when we played them, and then you've got Florida and what they were able to do, or Tennessee and what they were able to do as the running game, and then Florida and the way they ran the quarterback, and then last week with Beatty, and then this week with Bigsby and the rest of those running backs. So it's certainly that's SEC football, for sure. So we've seen a lot of great running backs throughout the season. This is another dynamic one that we're about to see that's a little bit of a different style than some of the other ones we've seen. But our guys have shown that they can stop the run. That's what Florida does. Florida was averaging 7 yards a carry when they came in here, and we stopped the run that night. And we've got to be more consistent doing it than what we were against Missouri. We got to be more consistent as a football team in all phases than what we were against Missouri, because we were just too inconsistent the other night. But I know our guys can. It's going to take a great commitment to it. It's going to create great physicality, and we've got to. They've shown they can do it. And then as far as Zaquandre goes, love what that kid's about. We made him a captain last week before the game. We do game captains. We haven't voted on permanent captains yet, but he was a captain for us last week, and it's because of the way that he comes to work every day, and he started the season and then didn't get the reps that he wanted as the season went on early on, and then just kept working and kept fighting, and now he's explosive, he's dynamic, he's great out of the backfield as you saw the other night, and you know what you're going to get each and every day with Zaquandre. It's going to be great energy and great, competitive spirit in practice, in games. He never stops talking. That energy that he plays with, it's the same way out there on the practice field as well. He loves to compete, and he loves the game of football.
Shane, a two-parter for you. How much did you know about Damani Staley before you came here?
Very little. Honestly, I knew who he was just because living in Oklahoma, told you guys, I mean, I recorded the coach's show every Sunday and watched it for the last 10 years. So, I mean, I knew about the players from that standpoint, but I didn't really know much about Damani other than just seeing him on highlights and obviously familiar with the last name with Deuce. But as far as him as a person or him as a player, I didn't know much.
And then just how would you judge his performance this year? I mean, based on kind of the stats and everything that he had before this.
I think he's been awesome. I mean, he's just so steady, and he hardly says a word. I mean, I don't know how many words that he and I have communicated with each other since I've been here. I mean, don't take that the wrong way, but and that's all the players as well. He doesn't say a whole lot, but he's just steady and consistent, and he's made, I think I said it on the teleconference the other night, he's just made so many plays this year. The interception return for a touchdown against ECU, the 4th and 1 stop against Florida. He had a huge play in the Vanderbilt game on their last drive. I think he was a tackle for loss in the backfield, if I'm not mistaken, down there in the red zone. He added on a pressure the other night and got a sack. So he's just steady, prepares, and really happy for him and the year that he's having for sure, because he's certainly earned it, and he's prepared and put himself in that position.
You joked a couple weeks ago before Jason's first start that about 87% of the balls go in EJ's direction. That hadn't been quite that high a percentage. Are you surprised by that? Is it because EJ hasn't been able to get open, or what have you seen there from that? How have you gotten him on the field more? It was him and Josh Vann playing the same position for a while, but how have you gone about getting him on the field more?
Yeah, as far as, surprised, maybe. EJ may be mad at Jason that he hasn't thrown him the ball. I don't know. It hasn't been for a lack of trying. A lot of that's the defense, too. And it's not as simple. Everybody says, we got to get Jaheim Bell the ball, and we got to get Josh Vann the ball, and we got to get EJ the ball. And it's not as simple as just calling a play and telling the quarterback, throw it to EJ. I mean, I wish we could get defenses to line up exactly like we wanted them to. And don't get me wrong, I mean, that's part of game planning and being able to get easy touches for guys on the perimeter and things like that. We do that all the time with Jaheim and Juju, but it's not as simple as just, drop back and we guarantee you this guy's going to be open. You don't know what coverage they're going to be in, and you don't know what kind of pressure they're going to bring, that the quarterback may have to go somewhere else with the ball. That ball that was, I guess it was the other night, we tried to throw it to EJ. I think it was EJ on that. May have been Josh, I'm sorry. But we tried to throw the ball to EJ some, and it's not for a lack of necessarily trying. It's just kind of what the defense gives you and where Jason's supposed to, go with the ball. But EJ's touches are coming. He's a weapon. And then in regards to just getting him on the field more, it's just those guys being a little bit more flexible, and Josh being able to play a couple different positions within our offense, which allows EJ to be on the field along with Josh or Xavier Legette or DK or Marion Brown or whoever it might be. So like I talked about before, early on, EJ and Josh were basically the same position on offense. Now they're playing a couple multiple positions where we're able to, get those guys on the field at the same time.
Shane, you kind of touched on Z, but as far as how he and Kevin kind of complement each other, it seems like they've kind of gotten at least some kind of rhythm the last few weeks. Just what have you seen from those guys, and how do you feel like you guys can kind of use those guys as a weapon going forward to get the running game going?
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back. I think I told you guys after spring practice where we sat down as an offense and talked about who are our top playmakers on this offense. And even though Kevin really didn't do anything in the springtime, you knew based off last year he was going to be one, along with Z White and Marshawn, and then Juju came along. They complement each other well. Marshawn did some really nice things the other night as well. We know what Juju can do, but certainly, Kevin's gaining more and more confidence as the year goes on. He's getting more and more healthy as the year goes on. Zaquandre continues to produce at a high level. So getting those guys both involved and keeping Marshawn involved and finding ways to get Juju touches is a challenge each week, but something that we're excited to do.
And like you say, we've kind of asked you about this before, but as far as Jason and handling, the last 2 plus months, when you look at how he's handled, losing out a quarterback competition twice and getting his opportunity, just what can you say about his character and how he's handled that situation and still bringing it every day in practice and being there and being, making good on his opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's a great lesson for all of us. Just, keep your head down and just continue to work. That's him. I mean, he's steady and didn't let the circumstances dictate, how he was going to respond. He just continued to prepare to be the starting quarterback and was super supportive of those other guys and didn't sit around and feel sorry for himself and mope. He didn't come in my office and want to complain about why he's not getting the opportunity. Just he handled it the right way, and he was a great teammate, and he continued to be appreciative for the opportunity he had here and continued to work. And I think he's handled it. He's handled it great. You worry a little bit about everything after the Florida game, and nobody knows who he is, and all of a sudden you got a week of he's sky high, and I thought he handled it well and had a good week of practice last week, and he made some really amazing throws this morning in practice as well. So you hope he continues to gain more and more confidence. He's got an SEC home start under his belt. He's got an SEC road start under his belt, and he continues to grow into the position as well.
Shane, we know it's not uncommon for coaches to hop around or, people to have different relationships. Someone coached here, go there. But, with a guy like Mike Bobo, having come in here, having interviewed him for that position, does it give you any type of, I don't want to say advantage, but knowing obviously what he likes to do? I mean, we know that he likes to run the football, but is there anything that you guys can take away from that can help you going into a game like this week?
Yeah, I think maybe, some familiarity, but every team is different, and I know what Mike's about, having not just from his time here, but when he was at Georgia as the offensive coordinator, and I was here as an assistant coach on defense, and you know what he's about, what he believes in, and certainly he's working for a offensive head coach whose background is offense as well, so it's a great blend of Boise and Mike Bobo's stuff as well, and Mike's a great coach, and at the end of the day, though, it gets down to the players on the field and our 11 and their 11 executing at high levels. But I don't know. I mean, there's certainly familiarity with things he likes to do and things like that, but it's probably a wash. I mean, he knows our personnel and a lot of that as well. So I don't know if. Probably not a whole lot of stock you can put into it, short answer.
Shane, along those same lines, is there any benefit at all to even turning on the tape from the Auburn game last year and saying to these guys, hey, you came out on top in this place against this team just a year ago, even though the circumstances are completely changed?
I don't think so. I mean, it's nothing that I'm going to show the team. I am in our team meeting Sunday and in our team meeting this morning, I didn't even mention last year's game. I mean, I think our guys know. I remember watching it on television, and it's two completely different coaching staffs. It's different coordinators all over the field. Certainly they're familiar with the personnel, and there's great confidence probably in the sense that how we handled business or how they handled business last year and won the football game, and I remember watching it as a back and forth game, and there's no. I think Shi Smith had a ton of catches that day and went back and forth with our JC and the receiver from Auburn. I think went back and forth. I mean, those guys. I remember watching that. Those guys aren't here, but certainly I think you can look back at last year, and it's not totally new. The first time you see them come out of the tunnel down there in their end zone and things like that. But there's not a whole lot that you can take from last year's game, and that's not just with Auburn. I mean, that's been throughout the year. I mean, I don't think there's a single game really that I went back myself. I'm not saying the coordinators haven't, but a game where I went back and watched South Carolina versus whatever opponent from last year, and it's definitely not anything that I've talked to the team about.
Thank you. You might have mentioned this at some point earlier in the year, so I apologize if you did. But what is Jason's eligibility status? Does he have?
He's got another year.
He does have another year.
Yep.
Have you guys talked about his future plans? I mean, is he definitely deciding to come back for another year?
I don't want to speak for him based on my conversations with him, though. I think he would like to come back, for another year. We've got to. it's tricky's not the word, but it's certainly a unique situation in that you've got a lot of guys that are super seniors that can't come back. I shouldn't say a lot, very few. And then you've got a group of guys that are technically seniors that may or may not come back. But Jason has another year. I believe he plans on, coming back. But all those conversations are conversations that, we'll sit down after the season and talk with those guys. Not just Jason, but a lot of those guys that are in that situation. Certainly we'll have players weighing NFL opportunities and things like that, like you always do. And we'll sit down with all of them and help them make the best decision for them and for our program as well. All right. Y'all have a great week. Thank you.